The space race and rocket launch companies have become competitive over the years. NASA, that have been in the game for years, needs clarification about how to solve its unprecedented failure. While new guys like Elon Musk and SpaceX continue to advance and launch different rockets into space, talk about the Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy, and the soon-to-be-launched Starship, which Elon Musk will keep putting his foot on the ground and energize his engineers to work hard by paying them attractive salaries to fulfill his dreams of making humans a colony of planet Mars, not only Earth. This perhaps sounds like all these, while we humans have been dubbed to think we were only meant to live on Earth. But Elon Musk is here to change the whole story for us to see. On the other hand, NASA has not just failed in launching the SLS rocket into space, but the launch tower has also been a complete disaster. NASA, funded by the United States government, has taken another step to reconstruct the ML launch tower, which continues to give them a severe nightmare. Let's find out how NASA wants to go about reconstructing their ML launch tower, and will they succeed on this brand new quest, as the Artemis 1 rocket have yet to smell success. Continue watching to find out. Since August 17th, 2022, NASA's huge space launch system, also known as the SLS moon rocket, has been standing silently on Pad 39B at the Kennedy Space Center, towering over the Florida swamps. It is an attractive and promising machine, but by any standard. On August 29th, and again on September 3rd, the rocket's 6 engines were meant to light up, generating a record 8.8 million pounds, or 4 million kg, of thrust and muscling the hardware stack off the pad and launching it towards space. However, both events did not take place. If all had gone according to NASA's plans, the Orion crew capsule that is part of the SLS would have already begun its journey to the moon. It is expected that the space agency's Artemis program, which has as its main goal the safe return of American astronauts to the lunar surface by 2026, will begin operations. However, it has yet to take place. Both of the launches that were scheduled were cancelled. The first one was cancelled because it was afflicted by several issues. The worst was a malfunctioning sensor that incorrectly suggested that one of the primary engines had failed to be cooled sufficiently for ignition. It's possible that inadequate cooling caused the engine bell to crack, caused the engine to fail entirely. The second attempt was terminated due to a leak in the liquid hydrogen supply, which prevented the rocket from being suitably fueled. On the launch pad, engineers are currently working to fix the problem with the fuel leak, but they will likely have to roll the rocket back to its hangar in the vehicle assembly building to recharge the batteries, which ran out during the lengthy wait on the pad, as well as check for any other possible leaks. The SLS is a more powerful rocket, which is exactly what was required of it. A return to the moon program will not only send astronauts moonward to explore the lunar surface for a few days at a time, but it will also be used later to launch crews who will set up a permanent presence on the moon. So all of that propellant power is required to launch the larger crew capsule and other payloads required for the program. This program will also send astronauts to other parts of the moon to carry out scientific research. Camping out on a celestial body only 3 days from home is a vital step to learning how to live off the alien land. This will also serve as an important rehearsal for later travels to Mars, which will be at least an 8-month trip all the way. It has issues with a bizarre but vital technology needed to transport and launch the rocket. This scaffolding tower is known as a mobile launcher, or ML, and has problems. First, let's discuss the ML launch tower. In creating ML1, NASA has blown over its cost and schedule targets. In addition to immature SLS requirements, the agency's procurement strategy for ML1, which needed more cooperation and competition with design contractors, resulted in design flaws and integration issues, pushing the project's cost very high and fueling more delays. The ML project had had a lot of design mistakes when the tower was being built. This meant that the cabling and structural equipment didn't work as planned, and there were problems with making the connections, called umbilicals, that provided power, communications, oxygen, and fuel. NASA made these problems worse by accepting a design from one of the project's contractors that had yet to be proven or tested. SLS requirements that needed to be fully formed also caused integration problems, leading to higher costs and schedule delays. Because of these problems, NASA spent a lot of money on a system outside the budget. The agency wants to use it for 3 or 4 missions right now. What does it mean? Remember that in April, a stuck vent valve high up on the mobile launcher structure supporting the SLS at NASA's Kennedy Space Center forced NASA to cancel the Artemis 1 test after fueling had started. Now, coming back to NASA's mobile launcher 2, the NASA Inspector General said it would cost $383 million to make a second version of the mobile launcher. But a new report that is very harsh says that the project is already years behind schedule. The launcher is too heavy, and the whole project seems to be overpriced by hundreds of millions of dollars. The new cost estimate for the project is $960 million. Even Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, said that the price is too high. More importantly, NASA had already spent $4,356 million on the project as of this spring. But despite this, it was reported that the design work for the huge launch tower still needed to be done as of May. In fact, Bechtel, a civil engineering company, thinks the building will start at least at the end of 2022. That's a big setback, especially since the ML2 was supposed to be ready in March 2023. NASA's original contract with Bechtel said they would build a mobile launcher for the SLS rocket for $668.7 million. However, that program's cost also increased by a huge amount. After NASA's program was canceled, the agency had to change the tower to fit the SLS rocket. But why does the problem still persist? The report points out a long list of mistakes by the contractor Bechtel, but it also criticizes NASA's strategies. For instance, Martin said that NASA gave the contract to Bechtel before the specifications for the SLS rocket's upper stage were finalized. The rocket's second stage, called the Exploration Upper Stage, or EUS, will greatly improve the design of the mobile launch tower, which will be used to power and fuel the rocket on the ground, was slowed down by the lack of final requirements for the EUS. NASA says that it had no choice but to move forward with the design and building of the tower to meet a deadline for lunar missions. The first 3 flights of the program, which ends with people landing on the moon, will either be on the first version of the SLS rocket that has its own mobile launch tower, or on a different rocket. But starting with the Artemis 4 mission, NASA wants to send missions to the moon on a more powerful SLS rocket. For this to happen, a new mobile launch tower will be needed. The mission was supposed to happen in 2026, but delays caused by the Artemis floods mean that it will only happen in 2027 or 2028. Still, NASA pushed for the second mobile launch tower to be built and ready by 2026. They also asked for design work on the tower before they knew the rocket spine requirements. This will likely add costs that will make the second mobile launch tower be more than $1 billion. Bill Nelson, in charge of NASA, was upset with the ML2 at a Senate hearing on May 3rd. He said that because Bechtel is underbid on a cost-plus contract to get it, they can't do their job, and NASA is stuck. Nelson said at the hearing that he had met with the CEO of Bechtel, but that the cost-plus contract made it hard for the agency to do much about it. Nelson used the agency's experience with ML2 to argue for more fixed-price contracts. According to the audit, NASA is looking into what parts of the ML2 contract can be changed to a fixed-price structure. At this point, it's just too early to say how these efforts will affect the cost and schedule of the 2 ML projects. Can NASA fix all of the issues that have been occurring with the Artemis 1 rocket and the mobile launcher tower simultaneously? SpaceX has has some work to do as well after Starship's found heat shield testing problem. Click on the video to know more about this.